events that we're having, and just, get an idea of what this organization is doing and how you can get plugged in. Okay, so speaking of those, speaking of upcoming events, in a couple weeks, in 2 weeks from today actually, is the Lubbock Arts Festival, which is at the Lubbock Civic Center. Capital Writers and Illustrators Alliance we have a booth there. That's one of the investments that we made with your membership fees. So we rented a booth there, and members are welcome to come and man the booth with me. I'm going to be there too, both days, Saturday and Sunday, the 24th and 25th. And you can take a shift and promote the group, promote your books. You can sell your books if you want to. You can sell your prints if you want to. If you're an illustrator and you have prints, you can sell those during your shift. If you don't want to take a shift and you want to, but you want to still have some kind of promotional materials to put on the table, we will be happy to just set that on the table for you. We have decided that we're not going to try to sell other people's books because we don't know them as well as you do, but if, like I said, if you have bookmarks or flyers or any kind of cute promotional material to put on the table, we would be happy to do that. If you would like to donate a book for us to sell, or to give away as a door prize or something like that, we'll be happy to do that too. Just email us at capitalwritersalliance@gmail.com and let me know, and we'll make arrangements to pick that up for you. But if you want to take a shift on Saturday or Sunday, the 24th and 25th, I would love to have you. During that time, you will be asked to help promote the group. We have an anthology that we published last year. We're going to be selling copies of that. So, talk to people at the festival about the book. You get lots of foot traffic through there. And then you can also sell your stuff. You're going to be in charge of taking that, so you need some way to receive, a Square Space or not Square Space. What is it? PayPal or something like that to take the money, and that will be yours. And of course, you get to keep the money that you're not asked to donate that to the group. You get to keep that. So you can sign up for a shift at caprockwriters.com, and I will be happy to have you. All right. Now, I wanted to talk about upcoming meetings too before we get today's presentation. So, because we do have exciting things coming up. Now, we decided to take August off, so we do not have an August meeting. But in September, we have Dorinda Jones, Laughing in the Face of Danger. You probably have heard of Dorinda Jones. She's going to be doing a presentation, The Hows and Whys of Using Humor to Freshen Your Prose, Strengthen Your Story, and Deepen Your Characterization. So be sure to be here for September. Dorinda Jones. In October, we have Becca Syme, and Becca runs a program called Write Better Faster, and it's a program for writers to, if you've heard of the Gallup Strengths or the Clifton Strengths test, it's like a personality test. She incorporates the strengths specifically for writers. So finding out what your personality strengths are and how you can use those to improve your writing, improve your speed, just, develop based on your strengths. And I'm taking a couple of courses, and it's just fascinating stuff. So you want to be here for that. And then in November is Sixtus Avalon, and he has written, he's a doctor here, he lives in Lubbock, right? And he is a doctor, and he's written a book about, he's from Africa, and he's written a book about his father. So I think KJ knows, well, she definitely knows more about him than I do, so I'm going to let her talk a little bit about him if she wants to. But that's coming up in November. I'm so excited to have all these great programs for you guys. Really cool stuff coming up. So, but today we are talking about the Lubbock Book Festival. So KJ Waters is the president-elect of Capital Writers, and Stacy McKenzie, who is director of library services. I'm sorry. I was like, she's with the library. Director of Library Services. And so they're going to be talking about the Lubbock Book Festival. So I'm going to turn it over to them.
I'm Stacey McKenzie. I'm the Director of Library Services at the Lubbock Public Library. First of all, if you haven't been to the library lately, please stop by. Obviously, you're writers. You need to read a lot, and guess what? We've got a lot of books. We can get anything you want us to get also through interlibrary loan. We have ebooks and audiobooks through Overdrive online. If you don't have a library card, you can call the library. You don't even have to come in and get access to a number that will get you access to those ebooks and audiobooks. We have increased our number of ebooks and audiobooks dramatically over the last year. I don't know if y'all know what happened last year, but at that time, we had a lot of people who needed remote access to the library, and so we built that collection up. It has not let us down. The numbers keep rising, so we're going to keep adding that if you're into ebooks or audiobooks. But today, I'm here talking about something extremely exciting, which is our Lubbock Book Festival. We talked about doing this, and KJ and another couple people met last year, or 2019, I guess, the end of 2019, to talk about a Lubbock Book Festival. And because we had one in 2018 that Luca kind of took the reins on, and it was a great event. I believe they were like, yeah, if you want to do it, that'd be terrific. And I've been back to Lubbock for 2.5 years, coming back as library director. And one of the things I asked in my interview was, what about a book festival? And the interview team from the city said, oh yeah, we have one, but the library's not doing it. And I was like, okay. And then I said, well, what about a one book reads for the city? And they said, oh yeah, we have that, but the library's not doing it. So I'm here to reclaim a couple things that I want to do for us and for the library. And so we met about this, the idea of this. We had one meeting, and then I don't know if y'all know what happened last year, but again, we said, okay, well that's not going to happen. This year we bravely started meeting earlier in the year and said, let's just plan for it and see how it goes. So on September 24th, 25th, and 26th is our Lubbock Book Festival for 2021. And we plan on doing this every year going forward. If it's too overwhelming, we'll pull it back next year. But what we really think is going to happen is it's going to continue to grow. This year it is all inclusive at the Mayhem Library. We did decide to start kind of slow on very familiar territory where I have ultimate reign, so I get to call the shots and no one can tell us no, basically. On September 24th, we have what's called a prologue party, and it's going to be our big kickoff. We believe right now that that's going to be at the Market Alumni Center in their brand new part of their facility. It's going to be hors d'oeuvres and cocktail hour. We will also have a silent auction. So we'll be raising funds for Literacy Lubbock. If you don't know what Literacy Lubbock is, they're an organization that covers all literacy bases for Lubbock. They are funded by United Way and other sources, and this is going to be their major fundraiser. They help people to learn English, they help people to get jobs, they help people get their GEDs, they help children. They do a lot of story times for us, so they're big in early literacy. So all of the funding from this goes straight to Literacy Lubbock. What does the library get out of it? It's like a program for us, and it's something that the city council definitely wanted us to bring back and do again. So, and that's, I have to do what they say. So that's that part. So the prologue party is the 24th. That's going to be from 7 to 9 o'clock. All authors who get a booth or a table at the library for this event will be invited to that party. You will be able to purchase additional tickets if you'd like to bring anyone with you. And the 25th and 26th is when the actual event happens. And that is on Saturday, it's from 9 to 5 p.m. and on Sunday, it's 1 to 5 p.m. We are selling the author booths, and this is a contribution to Literacy Lubbock. They're $40. $40 gets you your table for both days. We anticipate 200 to 300 people coming through at this event. And we're going to have food trucks, so that's going to draw a lot of people right there, you know. We are also doing this in conjunction with our, and I know every single one of you is going to know what I'm talking about, our Friends of the Library book sale. And you know how many people that draws. So we're going to have a lot of events going on. Across the street at the Civic Center is the Gem and Mineral Show. They're not a totally big event, but we're going to grab some of them too. So we're just going to have everybody over there. On the 25th, the 24th and 25th is when we will actually be having, 25th and 26th, I don't want to get that wrong, is when we will actually be having the booths where authors will all have a table and the public will be able to come through, talk to the authors, maybe get a bookmark from you. We'll talk more about what that, and KJ will be talking more about what it means to have a booth there. And we're going to have between 40 and 50 authors there. We really want Cap Rock writers represented very well and very strongly. So please go to that website that we will direct you to. It's Literacy Lubbock, and there's a tab to sign up for this so that you can get out there. We're going to have a couple options for you to sell your book. You can sell it yourself at your table and work with it, whatever money ordering system you have, or you'll be able to sell through a vendor who's going to handle all the books and shipping and stuff like that. And you know how that goes. And if you don't, it's like if you sell it yourself, you get more of your money back. But sometimes it's easier when the vendor takes care of that. We're working on some of those details right now. We will also have panelists, presentations, and programs going on at the same time. KJ's going to talk a lot about the panelists that we have, and these are selected author groups that are going to talk about their books, some of them will talk about their processes. We're also going to have some programming maybe on early childhood literacy for those authors who want to write children's books. And we're also going to have a lot of activities going on throughout the library, including workshops with different writers help group workshops going on, and activities for children and teens and even adults. So it's going to be a big destination day for people who want to come there. If you are a panelist, we will have a place for you to sign and sell your books directly outside of the community room. And if you're not a panelist, you will have that booth, and that covers both days, by the way, if I didn't already say that. That gets you both days. Our focus on Saturday is sort of adult services and adult authors. But on Sunday, we are dedicating that 1 to 5 o'clock slot for children. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be a children's author to have your booth on Saturday, but the panels and programs will be mostly children's oriented. Either children's authors or the workshops will go towards writing children's books. But we're going to try to kind of space that out so people can have a choice each day. I do have a handout for you. Did everybody? Oh yeah, she did that. That's great. Thank you. I just want to give you a full outline because yes, it's Literacy Lubbock, and yes, it's the Lubbock Library in partnership, but Cap Rock Writers, I feel, is like a third partner here because KJ has done so much with getting some of the panels together and getting the authors on board with this. So the support with that from Cap Rock Writers is huge for us. And we're going to have 6 to 8 programs on Saturday, panel type programs, and at least 3 on Sunday. That doesn't include the writers' workshops that are going on. We're also going to have a cookbook nook, and we're going to have cookbook authors who are going to talk about what they have, and the South Plains College Culinary Group is going to make appetizers for people to try, and giving out free food gets a lot of people in. It's going to be great exposure for you. We also will have, we're going to have a lounge for the authors. So if you need a break from your table, we're going to have snacks and drinks.
It went off up there.
Like, I really don't need it. Librarians are quiet, So it's timed out. We want to make sure and take care of you guys. If you need to run to the restroom or something like that, we will come back on.
Yeah, came back on.
We will, I just like this too, I don't mean it, but if you need to run to the restroom while you're in a booth or something, we're gonna have people who are gonna fill in for your seat for you. We'll be able to sit there and watch your stuff and make sure that that they know someone's kind of covering that area for you. So we really tried to think of how we can cover for our authors and give them the best experience so that you enjoy what you're doing, including going and seeing some of these other author tables if there's somebody you haven't seen there. So we want to make it a great place for you all too. If you need to go to a workshop, we'll cover that as well with volunteers. In addition to a lounge for the authors, we are going to be selling VIP gift bags to the public. And those gift bags are going to include an invitation to our prologue party. And it's going to be a really nice party. It's going to have some FOL bucks, so you can go downstairs at this sale or a future sale and have $5 off of their already low prices. We're going to give any of these VIP bags the choice of one of the books from the author tables that are there. This does not mean we're going to ask you to donate that book. That's part of our funding. We're going to, if 5 of the people on the who purchase gift bags want to get a book from Grace, she will get paid for those books. So that's kind of how that's working, but we want to make sure they leave with one of those books. And more is what this says, and more. And that we got a lot of swag and some good things in there. They will also get access to the Author's Lounge. So you may have some fans up there wanting to talk to you a little more personally about the book and what you're doing there. Again, we're going to have food trucks. That's very important. Logan's crazy about the food trucks. If you know of a food truck owner who would like to participate, please send that information over to KJ and she'll pass it on to us. We've got a couple, but we want to have at least 4 or 5, maybe more if we can get it there. And then we've also worked with local hotels who have given us banks of room rates so that if we have anybody who comes in from out of town, they get a special little perk of a discounted rate at the hotels. And we will probably have a little gift bag in there for them or something like that. Visit Lubbock is really getting behind this and really excited about what we're doing. So that's the overview of what we're doing in September. We're still working out some of the final details, but we expect it to be a really nice big event. And we're glad Mahon is so big so that we can host the first one there. We are looking at maybe the Civic Center next year or some other venues that we can really spread out and even expand even more. We hope that all of you will participate. Later on, KJ is going to talk to people who are interested in being panelists. We are still entertaining people who might want to be panelists. And we also have tables for organizations that might want to participate, nonprofit or vendors. And we would love to see you out there at this festival. Whether you've got your book already done and want a table, or whether you don't, I think you'll really get some great exposure, meet some other authors, and have an overall great time. All right, KJ, I think I'm going to throw it over to you.
Thank you, Stacy. That is wonderful information. You've got all the information on your sheet. I'm not sure if that link is there, but it is up on Literacy Lubbock. It's also on the CAPROC website. So if you want to sign up for an author table, to be a vendor, be a panelist, all of those are on our website as well. It's just a copy of theirs with all there's little buttons that go to each of those places. So what we're talking about, actually I want to say one thing too. When we're done with this talk, I'm going to pull all the panelists out into that room and just give you a little bit more detailed information. The rest of this room is going to be an open mic. We've got several people who brought instruments, Barbara, and a few other things. So they're going to do a reading of their book, and it's going to be really fun. And so, in order for us panelists to hear anything, we're going to go out. So I'm going to ask you to grab your chair. And you're welcome to come back when we're done and listen to the rest of the readings. Or read if you've got something you brought as well. Okay, so here's the author table situation. We are hoping to have 40 to 50 authors. If you're a member of CAPROC Alliance, then we're going to give you priority seating. It doesn't mean you'll necessarily get a table, but it means that we're looking at your applications first, and out of 40 to 50 people. So members will get a nice little perk there. And it'll be $40 for both days, as she said, 40 to 50 tables, and you have to apply by August 2nd. And we're looking for, there's a full form you got to fill out. It might include other, like, do you require them to have a picture of them or the book?
Yes, we'd like an author pictures for promotion and or the book. And we kind of feel like your application is not complete unless we get all of those, or you contact us and let us know what the issue is. If you're on the run from the law, we get a different picture. We'll figure it out.
Right. So make sure you fill out the whole thing so that you are included. Then we'll have a meeting where we choose, if we have to. I'm hoping we have more than enough people. And if we just have 40 or 50, we'll just fit you all in. So hopefully we won't have an issue. But we're expecting a lot. We know a lot of authors that are interested in this. So now, the panels on Saturday, as Stacy said, are focused on more adult type books. And I don't mean it like that. I just mean So, we are going to have, this is the order that things will be during the day. So first we're starting with memoir biography, mystery, suspense, crime, women's literature, Lubbock local panel. We have Jody Thomas.
Is she gonna be here?
She will be at the book
Oh
festival.
my God, I love her.
Yes, we all love her.
She loves us.
She loves us too. If you all don't know Jody Thomas is, she lives up in Amarillo, and she's an international USA Today, New York Times bestselling author and she writes mainstream fiction and then also Western romance. So big draw. We also have a romance table and a science fiction fantasy panel. Not too bad. Sunday, we have children's focus, but authors, we still really want you to be there. We are asking you when you sign up to have an author table to be there Sunday too. It's 1 to 5. And so we want to make sure that you're there. There's going to be a lot of people there. The people who have children are also adults, and they also read books. So you want to make sure you're there the whole time. Our first panel is on early literacy put together by the library. Try to help parents figure out which books to choose for their kids and kind of emphasize how important literacy is. Then we have a children's literature panel and then a young adult panel. And I just have to tell you, we got a yes for A.G. Howard will be there for the YA panel. So we are really excited about that. She's a USA Today International New York Times bestselling YA author. And at the last book festival, she was there, and I can't tell you how many teens I saw clutching her books, running around trying to give her an assignment. So she'll be a big draw. And that's another reason that you want to be there Sunday. So here's our plan. Here's in a random order. I have our featured panels. So Jody Thomas, Linda Brody, who's right here. She just writes Western romance and has 2 books coming up this fall. And A.G. Howard. That's all right. We have S.J. Dahlstrom, who is a local legend. He writes children's books. Tom Nichols is here. He's going to be one of our panelists. Tom presented at our last meeting, and he is a crime mystery writer. He used to be the chief of police for Lubbock and for Tucson. So we also have Karen McKay. She writes children's books, and she's with KCPD News, our news reporter. And we have Karen Whitmire, Jan Sykes, Teddy Jones. I'm going to watch this just so it doesn't take me too long, but just, you get to see what y'all look like. We have Bob Horton. He's an award-winning journalist, and he was also nominated for the Pulitzer Prize. He's a local, he used to work for Avalanche Journal. Carrie Banks he's actually a songwriter and musician. He's on the West Texas Walk of Fame. And
He was in the Maines Brothers.
yes, he was in the Maines Brothers. Kathy Jules also, she's the CMA Texas Artist of the Year, so it's good. And they're all authors. They're not just here for the music. We have Sixtus Adabon, who was our November program, and he actually did, I've had spinal fusion surgery, and he did it, so I know him. He's seen my bones. Which sounds really weird. I swear, he's a really good guy. He's from Africa. He grew up in a village that didn't have any electricity, and he went to he went to nursing school here in Lubbock, and they pulled him into foundation that goes around. He went back to somewhere right in his village where they built a hospital, Nicaragua, and so he's got this huge, it's almost like an industry that he's got all these, volunteers and fundraising and stuff. So he's a great speaker, has a book called My Father's Gift out. Rick Treon is from the Amarillo area, and he's an international Amazon bestselling author. Taylor Moore used to be a CIA agent. Linda and I were just talking about it the other day. You may not know who he is yet, but you're going to know who he is because he got a huge publisher to pick him up, and Hollywood's tapping him on the shoulder. So he'll be here. Hopefully we'll get back other years when he's blown up his ears. But right now, it's your chance to meet him and get to know him. He's one of the nicest guys. We have James Stoddard, who is a local. He lives over in Ransom Canyon. He's an award-winning fantasy sci-fi author. Frank Sykes is a local as well, author of the West Texas Middleweight, the story of Laverne Roach. Heather Pillow Walden, she's a New York Times and USA Today bestselling author. We have Tiffany Thompson, who usually comes to our meetings. She has an award-winning children's book. And then Steve Curry, who's right here. He's going to be for our sci-fi panel. And welcome, Steve. Thank you for coming. And then there's me, right here. For our cookbook night, we are looking for some more cookbook authors, but we have a really big Lubbock staple. Angelina LaRue, her book is The Whole Enchilada, and at the last book festival, which Barbara Brand, right? Barbara Brand's here. She actually served food and had a special luncheon and stuff. Well, she will be in our cookbook nook. I'm meeting with her next week to get all the details of what she wants to do. But we are looking for a few other cookbook authors. So if y'all know anyone, let me know, or you can go on our website and have them fill out the forms. Okay, so Stacey just wanted me to cover quickly how to host an author table. Most of you are experts at this and know exactly what you're doing. But just for those of us who maybe haven't before, and as a reminder to all of us, what you do want to do, you bring about 10 to 30 books, and if you've got several books, most people will buy your first book if you have like a series. Just keep that in mind. It's really good to have handouts, posters, props. A lot of people make a picture of their book cover and have it on a stand, so as people walk by, it's not just a flat table, you see something. Have candy. You may want to make sure they come up to your table. And Jody Thomas's advice to me was, you want to have a little enticement. So she has a bookmark. Would you like a free bookmark? And then they like approach, and then you pull them in with your pitch. So just as an idea. And then what we're allowing folks to do is set up Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Don't come past that time to be setting up when the people are starting to come through, so make sure you're coming early. If that doesn't work for you, we can make arrangements for another time or whatever to set up so that you can have all your stuff ready to go and the crowds are coming in. We see a lot, this is something that Terry Hanley always says when she has book signings, and some of the authors are just like playing on the phone, they're kind of scared. They don't want to make eye contact, but you're not going to sell any books that way. You're there to meet people and interact, so. And same thing, your neighbors are wonderful. I'm sure they're the most amazing authors you ever met. But you also want to engage the people walking by. So. And then we want to make sure you come both days. These tables, we think, will be sold out and will have to be selected. And we would hate for someone to be turned out and then you have an empty booth all day Sunday or something like that. So make sure you come for the whole day. Like I said, we have A.G. Howard, we have Karen McKay. I showed you also lots of big draws for Sunday, so people who are also readers, not just children, owners, will be there. So owners and children. My son used to call us his owner. Anyway, one of the things that we're also putting together right now are writing workshops. So I want to get a little call out from you all. What kind of things as writers do you want to learn? We're trying to get us like beginning writers, maybe people who have never written before but are interested in it, have a session more with a little bit more intermediate, maybe some marketing issue type things. But anyone want to raise their hand and call out something that you would like to learn in one of these workshops?
I will be shocked. So I'd like to know I'd like to know a little bit more about what is happening on the brick and mortar bookstore scene after the pandemic year, as which changed the landscape for readings, for library book purchases, and for hard copy, walk-in bookstore book purchases. So I'd love to hear from a representative of a chain or an independent bookstore or both on, how is that coming back?
Kim, are you taking notes?
I am.
Very good. And actually, in Jody Thomas's speech, in her presentation, she's going to be talking about, she's been to an industry conference and we're talking about a lot of that kind of stuff. So if you're really interested, make sure you go to Jody's presentation. We also didn't schedule any writing workshops at her time so that people won't miss out on that. But that's a really good point. We will have Barton, hopefully we'll have Barton over there. We're not totally sure, but we're trying to get them to do that, or maybe they can come and speak to some of that. But yeah, things have changed. It's very interesting. Someone else over here? Grace.
I have signed up to tell people how to get into book contests and how to win book awards. Is anybody interested in knowing about that? Einstein's Compass has won 10 book awards this year.
Wow.
And as an indie author, we have to get past this little island we call money. Okay? How do you do that? Book awards is a good way to do that, so that you are vetted and are, librarians will then look at you. Right, Stacey?
Yeah, makes a big difference.
So I have in this presentation a list of where you can go enter these book awards and do the best you can. Like I said, I won 10 book awards, including the best audio fiction. So I signed up to do that as a panelist on the writing workshops.
Great.
Come see me.
We are still putting those together, Grace. Thank you for submitting. You actually submitted 2, so we'll, be talking to you. Anyone else have other ideas or things they want to do?
I'm a member of the Dramatist Guild out of New York City, and one of the things that the newsletters constantly focus on is selling your own work. We expect our work to sell itself, and it's very hard when someone says, what is your book about? What is your play about? And we say too little, we say too much, but we don't say the right thing. We're intimidated, we don't want to brag, we don't want to sound like we're boasting about it, but we want to sell it. So a workshop on how to sell what you do, and feel confident about that, I think it could be a good.
Yeah. In writing, we call that your elevator pitch. And that's kind of what we're doing with the open mic here. Either you can read from your book, or you can do like your, elevator pitches. You're stuck in the elevator, so you're going up, So that's a great idea. We could have a workshop teaching people how to do that. Maybe bringing theirs and having them practice it.
Unless you know how to work the buttons, then you get what you know.
Yeah, well, not what we have. Does anyone else have an idea or interesting?
Just with your elevator pitch, you might be able to stick learners. We can write a book. I'm writing about our book or about ourselves. Thoughts.
And my publishers, when it's the first thing they ask for is a word. They want you out of it. So I always write the word consistent with so that I have it.
That's good. Very good advice. I met with James Stoddard yesterday. He's a local sci-fi fantasy author. He had the idea to do a panel, maybe with a couple other authors that help him host it, but to have one where whoever wants to, maybe 2 weeks ahead of time, submits their first chapter and allows the authors on the panel to critique it. And then we meet at the event. We would hand back your critique and then talk about some of the issues that came up and have like a, writing, how do you get your first chapter really strong? Does that sound interesting to you all? Does any other authors want to be on that committee, on that panel as like running it? I'm going to twist some arms. Okay. So my other one is, what can you teach? Now we heard from Grace, she's got a couple really good ideas. Her other idea was using your 5 senses in your writing, which I thought was a great idea. Is there anyone here? I'm looking, Kim? Yeah, so, here.
So I do a presentation on writing humor and how you can incorporate it into a book that even if it's not humorous, you wouldn't market it as humorous, but still want to kind of elevate the emotion in the book and make it more powerful. And so humor is a really great way to do that. And so I did a presentation on what using a little bit of humor can do for your book and how to do it. So that's what I would teach.
Anybody else?
I'm moderating, but I'll tell you what. I taught 7th grade English writing forever. And one of the things that I honed in on was I picked up a really good idea from a writing instructor. It was called Exploding the Moment. And that our lives, are the things that we remember in our lives are the moments, a tender moment or a hysterical moment or a disastrous moment. And that would give a kid something to write about because he only had to write about 5 minutes of his life. Something that happened in that 5 minutes. And so I incorporate that into my writing because when I'm in a chapter and everything's boring and I have to find that moment to explode it and pick out the pieces of the feelings and the humor or the tragedy that's there. Anyway, that's what I would teach.
Would you teach it?
Well, I signed up for a bunch of moderators. So whatever you want me to do.
Yeah, we'll make room for you.
Okay.
Does that sound like a good one? Yes. Okay, anyone else?
I'm hearing some good ideas.
Okay, that's good.
And I love these ideas. I'm just going to jump in here and elaborate. Because, we have to look at everything and try to find out what people want. And I love that some of the ideas were about sort of beginning, like using the 5 senses. That's one of those good beginner ones. We've got delving in deeper, like exploding that moment and really digging in. We've got marketing, elevator speeches. I mean, that's what we want here is someone to really come and get an overview. And I want to attend these because I would like to do some writing too. And so this is inspiring me.
Awesome. Anyone else? Oh, there's.
Well, actually, you and I could do a deal together, the 5 senses in an exploding moment. Wouldn't that be fun?
It would.
All right, we'll talk.
Okay.
All right, y'all are setting it all up. Okay, so I just want to remind you that if you have a vendor organization like Cabaret Writers and Illustrators Alliance, you can, for $100, rent a booth at the event too, so that you can reach out to the community.
For $100.
For $100. Did I say $400?
I said $400.
For
I was like, that's so money.
Yeah.
Nobody there. $400. No, it's a bargain. It's like quarter gross. Okay. Questions? Anybody have questions about the event, being an author, the panels, the fiction writing?
The gift bags, when and where will they be sold?
We hope that they'll be up for sale end of next week. We're having our meeting, we're just trying to decide on the final price. Right now, we're at like $60, I think, to get you all of those things, including the invite to the party.
It looked like it was going to be like sold at the event.
Okay.
Like here's an admission to the party we had last night.
Yeah. No, I'm sure it looked like that. No, they will be coming out very soon.
At the tent, you do it at the library.
They'll be purchased online through the website at Literacy Love, where you go to register everything else. They'll all be through Literacy Love, but we'll have a link on the library's website.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, and the book festival, when we have Wi-Fi accessibility, for example, in this room, sometimes we do, and sometimes we don't. And to use your phone and credit card, really need Wi-Fi. So we have Wi-Fi.
This room is a city room, just like we have at the library.
Right.
And so we do ask you to be prepared for some spotty Wi-Fi. We're going to do our best to get some boosters and have some hotspots where if we need to, if somebody's really having trouble, we can kind of like get another hotspot
Right.
Good question.
We've talked about that, and I'm like, this is really important, because if you're doing a swipe card, which most people want to purchase that way, you know, but I would bring money to them. Anybody else? Other questions about the festival, the author booth, the panels, the writing workshops? Yeah.
So I entered through Literacy Lubbock, and I would also go through the link on CapRock for
No,
this.
it's the same link.
It's the same link.
I just copied
So,
it for our.
okay, I just didn't want to repeat myself.
Yeah, we've
You
got.
It's all going towards, all the links are going towards.
Yeah, I just copied their website and put it on ours, so all the links will go to the same place. Good question. Anything else? Okay, well, thank you all for coming today. We still have 2 elements left. I'm going to ask all of our panelists who are here to grab your chair, I'm very sorry, and go out into that room. We were trying to have a separate place that we could talk, and we thought we could go in a corner, but this room is just too loud, and we have guitars and things, so I think it'll be easier. So just meet me out in the lobby area over there in just a second. Everyone else, please stay put. We have open mic. We have some of our authors here that are going to read, either do their elevator pitch or do quick reading. So Kim is going to run that portion.
Thank you very much. I'm so excited for this event, you guys. I know so much work has gone into this, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be really great. So thank you all for working on it. I don't know who was here, and was it 2018, Barbara, or 2017?
I think it was 2017.
17, I'm right, yeah.
Yeah, it was the one that Barbara helped to, or didn't help, like did. With Lucas help, I think. But it was phenomenal. And then, you know, we have really missed that. So I'm so excited that this is happening. It's going to be a really great thing. It's an every year kind of thing. So, while they're moving out, I wanted to tell you all a story I was thinking about this morning. When I was thinking about this open mic thing, I'm one of those lucky people who I've just always known, like my earliest memories were that I knew I wanted to be a writer, and I was always writing stories and everything. I've always just thought it's the coolest thing. And one time my grandmother, my sweet grandmother, they were talking about some other family friend who was a writer, and somebody said something like, have you seen her lately or something like that? She's like, yes, but all she wants to do is talk about her book. Just book all the time. And I was like, you don't want to hear about her book all the time? I want to hear about her book all the time. I want to hear about your books. And you know, that was just one of those life lessons that I had to learn, that really sweet people who make the world's best dill pickles can still be wrong. Like, they can still have a wrong opinion. And so, if you have ever talked about your book and someone has made you feel like they don't want to hear about your book, I just want to tell you, they're wrong. Writing is the best thing. And I want to hear about your books, but sometimes we just have to let people be wrong, don't we? Like in life, we just have to let people be wrong. And so, whenever we were kind of regrouping on this group, I thought one of the things I wanted to do was make sure that all of our local authors had a chance to talk about their book. Because, you know, I love to hear about your books, but it's also really scary to talk about your books. Like, you know, like you were just talking about, someone asks you what your book about, and your brain just leaks out your ears, and you don't even remember what it was. So I wanted to give our authors a chance to talk about their books. So we're having an open mic day today, and I hope this is something that we do at least once a year. But we had some people sign up to read from their books. I think we're still going to have some time after we get done with the sign-ups. So if you didn't sign up, but you still want to get up here and talk about your book, do a little elevator pitch, I think we'll have time at the end, okay? So let's hear about your books. So our first reader today is going to be DK Henley, or DK Kerr. DK Henley Kerr. I know Kerr Henley. DK Kerr Henley?
Yes.
I know her from all these different names, but really I just call her friend because she's my friend. So, and she's reading from her book, Last Chance Texas, and you guys need to read this book. It's a delight. I'm sorry that Stacy left because this is about a library. In fact, It's about, one of my, I don't know about you, but every time I hear about the library in Alexandria that burned down, I have this sense of horror.
I want to see you.
Okay. I hold it more closer to me. Okay. All right. Well, I probably was going to walk around. Anyway, this is about a fictional town in Texas, somewhere between Amarillo and Lubbock. And I get readers that write me and say, I've been looking on the map for Last Chance and I can't find it. And I'm like, maybe it's because it's on here. So, yeah, Last Chance, Texas is the name of the story. And at the very first of the book, the library burns down and the librarian is killed. And she was a force to be reckoned with in this tiny town. And after the will's read, after the funeral and everything, we find out that she's left 9 books to people in the town. They were in a box in her trunk of a car. It was on the parking lot of the library. And so the lawyer calls these 9 people in to give them these books. And so throughout the story, there's flashbacks about why Miss Hattie chose to give these books to these individuals. And this is a flashback of a very small boy who grew up going to the library and becoming one of the children that is mentored by Miss Hattie. And she was, one of the things she did in this small Texas town 20 years ago is she discovered that there were a group of kids that couldn't get into the local pool or to any of the activities because they just didn't have the funds. And there were latchkey kids that were staying at home in unair-conditioned houses and very poor conditions, and they were hungry. And so she met the need by having kind of an informal daycare set up in the library. And she wrote grants and she did all she possibly could to try to get food for the kids and have a safe place for them to grow up. So this is, the little boy has just moved to this town, so his mother has gotten a job at one of the dairies that's in the outside of Last Chance. And so this is his first day at the library. The small boy entered behind the other children, filling in before the heat of the day overtook them. He meandered down the rows of books and stopped in front of a sand sculpture table meant for the younger kids and watched them write words he'd only just learned. Later, he sat quietly during the puppet show the librarian Miss Hattie performed, and afterwards listened intently to the chapter she read from a new book, one about a school for wizards, where little kids were taught magic. She read with a funny accent, and it was hard to understand her, but everyone listened, rapt with interest. He raised his hand and asked her why she was using the funny accent, and the lady told him the children lived in England and they had different ways of saying English words. He understood that immediately and said, "Because I white, miss?" "No," she answered politely. "No matter what color the people are in England, they have accents. They think we speak English in a funny way. When I went to England, they thought I had an accent and laughed when I talked because I was from Texas." He nodded, his face pinched with concern. He thought she didn't talk funny. She talked like the teachers at his school. The kids broke into small groups, and some read to the smaller kids, and others read books they got to pick out all by themselves. All morning was one surprise after another, as the lady let them take the books off the shelves and stick them in their backpacks. When a soft bell-like timer went off, all the children walked down to an open door into a room of long rows of tables and chairs for grown-ups. But they sat in the living room. Some of the girls handed out moist towels for everyone to wash their hands, and then the big sandwiches and bartered their cookies for fruit. The big kids laughed at them and told them they could have as much as they wanted. They didn't have to barter. There were extra sandwiches too. Another big girl had a rolling library card and passed out cartons of milk. When she got to him, she asked if he wanted one or two. Two. Say please. He stared back at her, thinking it was some kind of joke. She sighed, but then said gently, "It's something we all do. We say please and thank you." She waited and he finally mumbled, "Please." He was as embarrassed as hell, but he tried not to let on. He gobbled the sandwich and drank the 2 cartons of milk in one big gulp and put the apple and most of the cookies he had left in his little bag in his pocket to share with his mom for later, or for himself if she were too late. After lunch, several of the boys asked Miss Hattie if they could use the computers, and she agreed and passed out several floppy disks as they raced to the computer bank. This neighborhood boy who brought him to the library tugged on him to come sit by his computer. "We're going to play Oregon Trail. It's my favorite game. I always die before I get to Oregon, but you get to shoot deer and buy provisions. Sometimes you die from dysentery. That means diarrhea." The kids around listening laughed hysterically. "Yeah, you don't want to die with diarrhea," they all agreed. He didn't know people could die of diarrhea. Great, another thing to worry about. He had diarrhea before. Did it mean the next time he'd get sick and die? The idea terrified him. Excellent, excellent. You guys, if you haven't read that book yet, you really need to get it. It's full of stories like that, people throughout the town, and it's just really charming and uplifting. And I learned about books that I hadn't read yet, maybe want to read books I hadn't read yet. So get your copies of Massachusetts. Our next up is Barbara Brandon, and Barbara, we've already mentioned her several times today. Barbara actually originally created the Cat Rock Writers, and then she left town, and so we have picked it back up, and I'm so thrilled that she's here today, still affiliated with the group, because she got this ball rolling, and I really appreciate it. So Barbara, let's hear it.
Thank you. I've got a few things to say to y'all first before my open mic number, and they have to do with congratulating all of you on continuing some initiatives that Kay Ellington and I and other Lubbock area writers felt were of huge importance to a city that had a major university, an excellent public school system, private schools, and many talented writers, and that called itself a city that cared about the arts but had no organization for the literary arts. Until some of these folks who had been, many of you participating in critique groups, and informal programs. Sometimes some of y'all were volunteers for Literacy Lubbock, had worked with the Lubbock Arts Festival and helped bring the literary arts into that sphere. But we felt that that Lubbock was the size of Texas, the city that needed to have its own book festival and needed to have a professional group of writers who aimed to learn about the publishing craft in addition to the critique groups. So that was the origin of the Caprock Writers and now Illustrators Alliance. We're so pleased that it's continuing. About the Lubbock Book Festival, and y'all can pass this on to the folks who are preparing for their panelist roles as well. In 2016-2017, when we started planning, and we, by that I mean the team that had established Lone Star Literary Life, the platform for books, authors, and publishers in Texas to share news statewide. When we thought let's launch a book festival. As far as we knew, there had never been one in Lubbock, so we called ourselves the first annual, we hoped, Lubbock Book Festival, and only when we were a few weeks out, having publicized it, gotten the mayor's backing and everything, and gotten Luca on board as the host, did we find out that, well, the Lubbock Public Library back in the 90s had sponsored an informal, small-scale Lubbock Book Festival. So it's great to see this event returning to its original home, and I hope continuing. This sounds like a strong basis, so thank you all for your ideas and for participating in it. Now, I'm going to see, since it sounds like this room does need a microphone, I'm going to see if I can get, if this mic will fit the mic stand, I'll bring that over, because I'm going to need my hands. And yeah, it doesn't fit this mic. So I'm just going to project, and I'm going to just lay this here on the table. No, that's all right. We're going to see if you can hear me if I just really shout, okay? And I've got some handouts, and Kim, you're always great with helping with handouts. We may be able to do one set per table or something like that. And so you heard me mention that that I had come to learn as a come here resident of Lubbock almost 20 years ago that the town had a reputation for the visual arts and especially for performing arts. I didn't know much about the heritage of Buddy Holly, didn't know the Maines brothers, didn't know any of the wonderful songwriters that have called Lubbock home over the years. But when I came to Texas Tech, I started becoming aware of that heritage, and it's really great these days to see that this year the Buddy Holly Hall has opened up, and I can't wait to see a show in that venue. But back when I first came to Lubbock, I went in search of the legacy of Buddy Holly, and I especially thought that when if a city has an entertainment spot as famous as Hollywood and Vine, if we've got a Buddy Holly Avenue, it's got to have like some famous photo op somewhere, doesn't it? Well, back then it didn't. So here's my little tribute to the corner of Buddy Holly and Mac Davis Lane. Was what I sought to find, a certain intersection of two famous names at the corner of Holly and Mac Davis Lane. Now, so you've got the words in front of you because you're going to sing on this chorus.
Okay. All right.
So I drove my Chevy down to Buddy Holly Avenue. I took my Fender guitar and my hammer too. A picture of the street sign was my name to the corner of Buddy Holly and Mac Davis Lane. Just imagine my excitement, it couldn't be that hard. But where the place was supposed to be, there stood a railroad guard. There's nothing to discover except a freight train at the corner of Buddy Holly and Mac Davis Lane. Well, brother, what a legend to face the sorry fact that music's hallowed ground was just a railroad track. 'Cause there ain't no intersection I here to explain at the corner of Buddy Holly and Mac Davis Lane. Well, I was so dejected, I got back in my car. I pulled beneath the viaduct and out on Marsh Sharp. there's blue there. Do this day I maintain. What's the story on the Holly? Mac Davis Lane. It's a mythical location beneath the railroad tracks. Just plug it into your GPS and keep coming back. Use your imagination and you won't search in vain for the corner of Buddy Holly and Mac Davis Lane. At the corner of Buddy Holly and Mac Davis Lane. Now don't you want the other three verses? Come on, sing along with me. I had an inspiration. I thought, well, what the heck? I drove my Chevy through the gates of Texas Tech. I swear I saw John Denver leaving on the jetty at the corner of Buddy Holly and Mac Davis Lane. Then I went out to LCU to see what I could see. And by the dashboard light, I spotted me love, yes, sirree. With that surprise success, I said, let's call it a day. At the corner of Buddy Holly and Mac Davis Lane. So if you look at the public, there's music to be found. But you think of Terry Allen or the love of the underground. You might spy Jolie, and you might see that news at the corner of Buddy Holly and Mac Davis Lane. Well, I've got the word you can take them home and practice this for yourself. So thanks for bearing with me. I also brought the published copy of the novel that I read an excerpt from the last time I talked to this group. And I've got copies for sale if you'd like to take a look at it. And because The Wolf Hunt is a book that is based on the Victorian mystery novel, which, as you may know, in history was often serialized in magazines or newspapers as a way of publication in the 19th century. Since I'm a newspaper publisher these days, I have the power to serialize the novel. I've got copies of the first installment of The Wolf Hunt if you'd like a copy. So, thanks.
Thank you.
And I turned my mic.
Can y'all hear? I'm just gonna check. Okay. Thank you. That was awesome. I loved it. I didn't know Meatloaf went to LCU. So I knew about John Denver, but I did not know that.
That's very cool music trivia.
That's very cool. Okay, our next presenter is Grace Blair, reading from her book. I tried to say work and book at the same time, but it came out book. I'm sorry. She's not reading from a book. She's reading from Einstein's Opposite.
Thank you. How do you follow up with that?
That's awesome. Thank you for that wonderful song.
Thank you for singing along.
Well, I'm a musician myself, and I've just taken up the piano, so, yeah. Einstein's Compass, a YA time traveler adventure. Where did I come up with that idea? So I thought about Albert Einstein. At the time of when he lived, the latest technology was a light bulb. His family was actually in the business of putting in electricity, DC current with light bulbs. So he had an early education on electricity. So I said, how did he come up with his world-changing theories that we are still experiencing? The theory of relativity and all of his life-changing experiences. And I said, well, maybe he was really from Atlantis. Think about it. Maybe he was a pre-scientist from way back in the technology, the ancient Atlanteans, where they had practically everything that we have today. And so he was trying to remember what he did back then. And what if, at the same time, he had an evil twin brother who turns into a shape-shifting dragon, a doppelganger, and chases him through time for his supernatural compass. Now, the compass itself
is really true. His dad did give him a compass when he was a little boy, which set him on the journey to know what is time and what is life. But I said, what if it was supernatural? And then I found something, actually from the Bible, called the Shamir stone. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. God told Solomon he could not build his temple with any object that was of war, an axe, or anything that cut anything that was going to hurt people. So Solomon brought forward what was called a supernatural energy source called a Shamir. And I said, cool! I'm going to put that in the compass. And it does all kinds of neat things in the book. It creates holograms. It actually is, when Einstein and Albert holds it to his heart, is when it becomes alive. And so during the story, this is all about a young Jewish boy who went to a Catholic school who, through his life, experienced terrible anti-Semitism. His parents actually left him alone when he was a teenager, and he was really struggling, really struggling. So the compass and his supernatural beings helped him through whatever he was going through, and I give an alternate history of his life for 20 years. I took 20 years of his real life and put a supernatural science fiction fantasy over it, of how he got to his theory of relativity. So I'm going to read from the book. It's chapter 2. This is Germany, probably 1895. No, okay, 1885, right here. Fall of 1885. Read the book, girl. And he meets his best friend for all of his life in this one chapter. Now, Johann didn't really exist in his real life, but I created a friend for him that would help him through his life. So the chapter is called A Friend. Albert's father was a partner in his brother Jacob's gas and electric company. One day, he took Albert to see an electrical lighting system the company installed. The customer, Frederick Thomas, owned a local brewery, Munich Brau. The reason Herman had dragged Albert along was that Thomas had a son, Johann, who was Albert's age. Both boys would soon begin first grade, and Herman thought it would be good for the shy Albert to know at least one boy in his class. Albert did not want to go with his father. He preferred the regular routines at home. Being out in new places caused him to shut off inside. When the boys were introduced, Albert just stared at the floor, went into his own inner world. He thought boys his own age were dull. He wanted to be alone. Herman forced a smile onto his lips. He reached down and shook Albert's shoulder. Come on, Albert. Johann wants to show you the new lights in the room. Albert knew his father would not like it if he did not do as he suggested. So reluctantly, his eyes still down, the reluctant guest shuffled over to Johann, wishing he could escape. Unfazed by Albert's shyness, Johann encouraged him with a broad grin. Wait till you see the lights! Come on, I'll race you to the barn! Whooping, Johann burst out the kitchen door and ran toward the barn. Albert rolled his eyes, ambled along, making way across the yard. Impatient, Johann bounced on his toes as he waited near the door for his guest. When Albert finally arrived, Johann flung open the door. Running inside, he jumped up on a wooden box, reached for the switch on the wall. It's amazing to see, he said as he flipped the switch. In a moment, incandescent light flooded the spacious barn. The smell of fresh hay and saddle soap met Albert's nose. He noticed wooden beer bells, stacked bales of hay, and horse carriages. Unimpressed by the lighting, Albert pointed to the incandescent bulb and went into lecture mode. When electrical current passes through a wire, it causes the wire to heat. The wire gets so hot that it glows, and it gives off light. Johann looked at Albert.
in surprise, his blue eyes dancing with amazement. He could not believe what he was hearing. How'd you know that? This boy is interested in this? Albert thought to himself. Albert relaxed a bit and began to explain, encouraged that he seemed to have impressed Johann. Papa makes me go to work with him. He teaches me about electricity. He and my uncle want me to learn a lighting business and apprentice with them. No kidding? Johann asked with obvious interest. Is that what you want to do? Albert shrugged. I don't know. I guess it would be okay. Johann nodded and became thoughtful. I know what you mean. My papa has his plans for my brothers and me to take over the brewery. I don't know if I want to do that either. Another smile lit up Johann's face. Hey, I know. I'll become a great brewer and you can electrify all my brewers. Albert smiled. Johann's friendliness and enthusiasm were infectious. Without warning, a light bulb went off in the electrical expert's head. Wait a second, Albert said, tugging a chain around his neck, pulling something out of his linen shirt. Want to see something very exciting? More interesting than lights? You bet! Johann nodded. Albert dangled a brass object in a silver chain. Johann's eyes remarked, wow, what is that? It's a compass. My father gave it to me. Have you ever seen one before? Shaking his head, Johann guided Albert over to the barrel of hay, and the two boys said, I haven't, Johann said, mesmerized by the fantastic device. What does it do? Albert held out the gleaming brass compass with the 12 sparkling gems. So Johann could see it better. He opened up the top and rotated the compass. See how the needle always points north, no matter how I move the case? His bright brown eyes twinkled as the mystery of the unknown captured his soul. Someday I will know and understand why it does that. Johann's blue eyes grew even more extensive. Not only had he never seen a compass before, he had never seen anything like it. Amid this fantastic day, Johann paused and thought. He had two brothers, Francis and Daniel, who worked in the brewery. They never talked like Albert did. His father, Frederick, a Lutheran, and the Einsteins were Jewish. Maybe that's the reason why he knew so much. Albert surrendered himself to the moment. He found himself trusting his charming and friendly companion, and he allowed Johann to hold his cherished prize. Johann opened and closed the clasp. Hey, come on, said Johann, jumping to his feet. Their eyes glued on the compass, and the two boys marched around the barn and watching the needle. Content with their first braid, they returned to their seats on the bale hay, and Johann returned to the compass. Albert closed his eyes and held this precious gift to his chest. Oh, I love my compass. I love my papa who gave it to me. The compass tingled against Albert's chest. From inside the compass, a shimmer of light burst, then radiated out about 10 inches all around Albert's hand. Albert felt the unexpected warmth and opened his eyes to find a rainbow projecting from the gems. Above the compass floated a three-dimensional 33. Johann, struck with wonder, and squealed, Albert threw his hands up in surprise, dropping the compass to the straw floor. The boy sat mesmerized for what would seem an eternity. Behind them, the barn door opened, and Papa Herman hollered into the barn. Albert, say goodbye to Johann. Your mama is waiting for dinner. Albert snatched up the enchanted instrument and looked earnestly at his new friend. Johann, you must never tell anyone what you have seen today. Do you promise? Speechless, Johann nodded his compliance. Bonded by a special secret, neither boy had any inkling what a vital role the compass would play in the adventure of their lives. One more thing. Einstein's compass, as I said, has won 10 awards, and including that Story Monster, and also the North Texas Book Festival, best YA fiction. So if you're interested in knowing how I did this, that is one of the things I want indie authors to become more aware of, because librarians need a way to vet your book. And this is one easy way to do that if you're winning book awards. It helps them look, because there's so many indie authors out there, and there's so many books that need help, let me put it that way. But you need a good cover. There's a lot of things that go into book awards. And I would love to talk about that at the Literacy Festival.
Excellent. What a fun book, too. Fun story. I agree. Contests are such a great way to give you a little street cred and also to just keep you encouraged. Because sometimes encouragement is kind of hard to find. It wears off after a while, and you need fresh encouragement. Contests are a great way to do that. So, thank you very much. I'm going to do a little reading from my book. Before I do that, though, in case we run out of time, I just want to kind of reiterate some of the things we talked about today, because we talked about 2 different events, and so I wanted to make sure that we know the Lubbock Arts Festival is coming up in 2 weeks, and you can join us at our Catwalk Writers and Illustrators booth, and you can sell your books if you want to. We would love to have you. I would love to have you there, and it's going to be, it's always a very, very well attended event, and I think that it will be this year as well. So please join me. Go to catwalkwriters.com, and there's a sign up link. There is a contact button if you just want some more information or want to provide some promotional materials. Send that to us, and we will get it worked out. And then the Lubbock Book Festival is coming up in September. So 2 really cool events. So this is my new book. This is The Trailer Park Princess is a Dazzling Dumpster Fire. And I have a series of Christian cozy mysteries that are set here in Lubbock. They're all Trailer Park Princess. This is the 5th book in the series, and talking about my books is also kind of hard for me because it's a cozy mystery series. The character deals with addiction and recovery, crises of faith, really kind of, well, not kind of, very serious issues. But they're so funny. They're funny books, and so that's kind of a weird sell. So I chose a scene today that kind of I felt like highlighted those. Well, anyway, it showed how I handle humor. Also, I'm also doing serious, tackling serious issues. So just as a little background, my protagonist, amateur detective, her name is Salem. Her best friend is an 80-year-old rich, bored woman who thinks she's 25. Her name is Viv. There's also Ash, who is, they met in AA. Ash is a former Marine, so all these women met in AA. They are looking for a girl who they thought had been a runaway, but it turns out they believe she was kidnapped and is being trafficked. And so they are stopped on the way from Lubbock to Dallas, where they think she might be. They're stopped at a roadside park. There's been a big wreck, and they've gotten lost twice, and they got off the interstate, got lost, and they're at a roadside park. It's late. They stopped at a truck stop and got a bunch of junk food, and so they're just at one of those old-fashioned roadside parks, not the fancy ones that are well lit, one of the old kinds on the old roads. And so it's nighttime, and they're just taking a break, and they're just eating a whole bunch of junk food. So here's where I'm going to start reading. "What is that?" Viv said, jerking her head up. Ash now turned to see what she was looking at. In the dark of the bushes around the rest area, I saw the glow of eyes about a foot off the ground. I jumped up. "Is it a possum?" The bushes shifted a bit. If it was an awfully big possum. Ash bent and peered. "I think it's a raccoon." As if waiting to be announced, the raccoon stepped out of the bushes. "Aw, he's cute," Viv said. "Look at him. He was pretty cute." My homesickness for Stump had me wanting to pet him. "Hey, little guy." I stepped off the concrete pad and crouched a bit, my hand out. "You come to join our picnic?" The raccoon was immediately flanked by 3 others. "Oh," I said. I stepped back, stumbling on the concrete. Ash waved a hand at them. "Shoo, get out of here." The one in the lead advanced. stepped back. They looked menacing to me. A raccoon gang. Shoo, Ash said again. 3 more raccoons stepped out of the bushes. They made this chattering noise. I think I'll wait in the car, I said, but I didn't move. Ash waved me in again and stopped to show the raccoon she meant business. She clapped her hands hard. Get out of here! 24 more raccoons stepped out of the bushes. Or maybe it was just a few. It was hard to tell because at first there were just one, and then suddenly it was like we found a raccoon factory. Ash grabbed a couple of the chip bags and clapped them together. I think she was trying to make a rattling sound that would scare them off, but these raccoons were clearly familiar with the sound of a free-to-lay bag. The one in the lead walked up to her, stood on his back legs, and took the bag from her. Not rushing or aggressive, just like, thanks, I'll take that. Good, I thought. He'll take the bag and go back into the dark. But that bag was clearly just the first thing they meant to take. As a group, they advanced toward us, not rushing, but inexorable. Ash said. She stepped back again. Back, she shouted. Get back. She darted toward one, then another, waving her arms at them. They all ignored her. The group had been one loose, cohesive unit. Suddenly they split, creating multiple paths, worming their way towards us. I realized there were fewer than I first thought, probably no more than 10 or 12, but they managed to be everywhere. I had been steadily backing up with my eyes on them. I heard something crunch under my feet, and I realized I had backed right up to the concrete bench and then onto the table. I crunched onto the box of Reese's Pieces. Bibb sat frozen, watching the little gray and black bandits swarm the table. We both heard another crunch. Bibb looked to her right. A fat raccoon sat there, calmly putting mini Oreos into its mouth. Bibb screamed. The raccoon opened its mouth and gave a guttural growl. I don't know who broke first. I just know that 1 second we were on the concrete pad, and the next we were all 3 pounding for the car. We jumped in and slammed the doors behind us, the air filled with the sound of our heavy breathing like we just crossed the finish line of a 100-meter dash. Holy moly, Bibb said. There must have been 100 of them. I sat from the back of the car and I counted 8 or 9. I didn't know they grow like that, I said. He was definitely about to eat my face off, Bibb said. No doubt in my mind. They weren't the least bit bothered by us. They lumbered fat and happy on the table and around it, casually devouring everything that we left. I sighed. Oh, well, we were pretty much done anyway, right? I wasn't, Ash said, but I guess we can find another convenience store when we get to Fort Worth. Yeah, or a Waffle House, Bibb said. I can handle some peanut butter waffles. Peanut butter waffles sounded amazing, actually. Let the stupid raccoons have the chips and M&Ms. Let's go, I said. Bibb reached for the ignition. Oh, she said. She looked back over her shoulder at the picnic table. Your keys are back there, aren't they? Ash asked. Bibb nodded. We all stared at the table. Raccoons everywhere. One of us could dash back there, grab the keys and phone, and dash back, Ash suggested. The car was silent for a second, and then Bibb said, yes, you could do that. Ash nodded. Or we could just wait. Raccoons are nocturnal. They'll head back for the shelter as soon as the moon starts going down. Nobody spoke for a long time. Waiting seems like a good idea. I mean, what if Ash trips while she's running back there and they swarm her? Then we'd never get the keys back, Bibb said. They can open car doors, Ash said. Bibb hit the button and the locks clicked. She hit it 3 more times for good measure. We watched in silence as the foraging at the table slowed. Good, I thought. When they run out of food, they'll leave and we can get the keys. Except it didn't leave. Maybe a few did, but a big one, the one that growled at Bibb, lay back down on his back like a fat old man and slept. I didn't know they sounded like that, Bibb whispered. It was like a mountain lion, Ash nodded. I don't think I'll ever forget that sound, Bibb agreed. 2 more curled up on the bench closest to us and fell asleep. I heard a soft snore and realized Bibb had dozed off. Ash looked at me and shrugged. Then she leaned her seat back and closed her eyes. I didn't think I would go to sleep. I was too keyed up from our multiple brushes with death, but I was wrong. So that's all who signed up, but if we do have some more time, if anyone wants to get up and practice your earlier pitch, or if you have something to read from, we are happy. You want to hear about it? Okay, I see a little hand back there. Ann.
Good.
Ann Spencer just published a book this year also. Are you reading from your new book?
I'm not. Actually, this is from the second book that I wrote. And I talked too loud. I don't know that I really need this. This is not from my new book. This is from my book, Premeditated Pandemonium. Evan Chavez is our hero in this story, and this is a flashback. He is currently a detective at Fort Worth, but he's remembering something that happened when he was in military intelligence. This night, he had to force his thoughts aside to concentrate on the mission at hand. At 950 feet, literally suspended between heaven and earth, it wasn't time for Zane to think of such things. On top of everything else, there was the bitter cold. It was the bitter cold that brought his focus back to his mission, his purpose. He had a job to do, and although his cheeks felt frozen as he hurtled through the black air of night between the helicopter and the top of the newly completed AWIF Corporation skyscraper, the jewel of the Boston skyline, he would persevere. Holding tight to the ripcord of his parachute, he counted off the seconds before he opened it. It was only seconds, but it felt like a perpetual eternity before he reached the precisely calculated distance when his parachute would not be noticed by the dual tower security team. He whispered the number 0 and pulled hard on the ripcord. The nylon cloth shot out of the tight packing and popped loudly as it suddenly filled with air. Zane flailed briefly like a rag doll as his momentum temporarily reversed, and he began his gentle descent to the top of the tallest tower. Landing with a roll, he stripped off the packing, tucked as much of its flowing black fabric back into it as he could. Dressed in black fatigues, he pulled his ski mask over his face. Loose threads outlined his rank and his Goldstein's Gorilla's patch, where his Goldstein's Gorilla's patch had once been attached to his shoulder. With little time to spare, he pressed the release button on the miniaturized collapsible grappling hook. The titanium tines of the hook sprang out into a claw shape. He secured the rope to the hook and anchored it to the massive air conditioning unit that cooled the tower. He put his weight against the rope and pulled. It held fast. Clipping the carabiners to the rope, and in repelling fashion, he slowly walked backward over the edge of the 65-story skyscraper, keeping his focus on the rope and the mirrored surface of the monolithic building, so he would not be overcome with vertigo, and because of the height, lose his footing. He tried to clear his thoughts and count the floors as he descended the rope. 57, 56, 55, 54, 53. This was the floor. Wrapping the rope into a knot around his waist to free his hands, he took an odd-looking torch from his bag. It was custom-made to be fueled by white phosphorus vapor and water spray. It would burn 10 times hotter than propane. He also put a metallic-looking glove on his left hand. Igniting the torch, he gripped it tightly and increased the chemical flow. The water vapor intensified the heat of the burning phosphorus. He hung there in space, feeding the flame a rich mixture of gases until it glowed a blinding blue-white. Holding it with just enough space between the tensile surface of the glass allowed the blazing tip enough air to burn at its maximum temp, approximately 1600 degrees Celsius. In a few moments, the glass began to melt into sludge. Little by little, his gauntleted hand pushed the melted glass out of the way, slowly enlarging the opening. He patiently moved the torch around in a circle, his gauntlet splitting open the ever-widening space in the thick glass-plated armor securing the building. Once he had a 36-inch hole melted in the security glass, he returned the torch to his bag before untying his rope and leaping feet first through the open oculus. He was inside. It was time to get to work. Hurrying down the hall with his gun at the ready, he passed the door marked stairs. He froze. The handle turned. Someone was there. A black gloved hand slid between the door and the frame. Suddenly, the door flung open wide, and he was face to face and gun to gun with the man in the stairway.
Ooh.
I did want to, okay, let's do going once. If, something I thought about after KJ talked, if you have ideas for a workshop or anything like that, feel free to send it, go to the Capital Writers Alliance, okay, capitalwriters.com is our website, and there's a contact button there, and that, we will get that information to KJ if you think of something for the book festival. We're working really, this organization, when I say we, I really need KJ, she's doing all the work on behalf of Capital Writers to work with the Literacy Lubbock and the library to put this on, but we're all invested in it, and we want it to be successful, and so whatever, if you have ideas, feel free to submit them that way, or is there anything else, like any, a better way to contact you, or?
You can grab me right now if you want to talk to me.
She's a very right now person. But if you can't think of it right now, if something dawns on you later, and if you want to grab my business card, I have some, just get that information to us. You've got a lot of ways to do it. Don't hesitate.
You can also go to, there's the button on the website for panelists, so you can just submit something there if that's easy to the Literacy Lubbock and that process. This panelist button, you can pitch something and we'll get lots of tools.
All right, excellent. Okay, well, I think that is a wrap for this meeting then. You have something? Yes, ma'am.
There's a lot of people in this room that I haven't met, and I'm sure you haven't met the other people. I'm going to do like I did last time and dare you to talk to every person in the room so that you all get to know each other. We're an alliance to connect with each other. Authors can really help each other out, so make some new friends. I know we have a few people here. There's, do you want to say something about your, that's it, I'm going to totally put her on the spot, but what's your name again?
Mallory Barnes.
Mallory Barnes has a website for book clubs, so you may want to just grab her real quick, because I know I want to talk to her. So I think that would be interesting. Every one of us would love to be in a book club. So, and maybe talk to the librarian too, I mean, talk to Stacy, and if there's a way to connect, it could be a conversation anyway. Anyone else have anything they want to announce to the group before we break up to kids?
I was just going to say that all of my books are free this weekend. My ebooks, all 4 of them.
What's your website?
It is it's DK Kerr, and that's not a website.
Oh.
You just go to Amazon.
Amazon DK Kerr, K-E-R-R.
DK, yeah, K-E-R-R, right.
K-E-R-R. Free books?
All 4 free.
Sweet.
Today and tomorrow.
Great, and remember,
I love giving them away. It's
we
fun.
don't have a meeting next month, but if you all want to make plans and have lunch or do something fun, go for it. I will be at the beach in Delaware. So, but then the next meeting, make sure we always meet